The morning my parents announced that my brother's wedding had been featured in a regional lifestyle magazine, I was standing in a police impound lot, staring at the empty space where my SUV should have been. It was a pearl-white Range Rover, 3 years old, paid off. I had bought it after 12 years of working as a senior title examiner, spending my days studying deeds, liens, signatures, ownership histories, and the quiet ways people tried to make property belong to them when it did not. The impound officer checked the vehicle identification number twice. Then he looked at me with the careful expression people use when they know the truth is going to hurt. "Ma'am, this vehicle wasn't stolen." I tightened my grip on the sealed envelope in my hand. "What do you mean?" "It was sold." The lot smelled like hot asphalt and exhaust. Somewhere behind me, a tow truck released its brakes with a long metallic sigh. I heard myself ask, "Sold by whom?" He turned his monitor slightly. The transfer paperwork listed my father as the seller, and beneath his name was a signature that looked almost exactly like mine. Almost. My parents had sold my luxury SUV to pay for my brother's wedding, and they had done it while I was out of town attending my grandmother's funeral. My family had always believed appearances mattered more than facts. They loved the frame. I trusted the paper. That difference was about to cost them everything they had spent years pretending to own. My name is Nora Caldwell, and I was 42 when this happened. I had worked in title examination since I was 27. Most people found my job dry. I found it reassuring. A house could be painted, staged, photographed, and described as perfect. But the record beneath it did not care about fresh flowers in the kitchen or expensive furniture in the living room. The record remembered every unpaid tax, every disputed boundary, every forged signature, every claim someone hoped no one would inspect too closely. Paper was patient. So was I. Growing up, patience had been less a virtue than a survival skill. My younger brother, Preston, was the child my parents displayed. He was handsome, charming, and naturally gifted at making ordinary achievements sound historic. When he graduated from college with a communications degree, my mother rented a ballroom. When I earned my professional certification while working full-time, she sent me a text that said, "Proud of you. Don't forget Preston's birthday dinner Friday." Preston understood the family arrangement early. He performed, I repaired, he made promises, I handled consequences. Whenever he borrowed money and forgot to repay it, my father said I should be grateful I was financially stable. Whenever he missed an obligation, my mother explained that creative people struggled with schedules. Whenever I objected, they accused me of keeping score. The truth was simpler. I kept records. My parents called that coldness. They preferred warmth, which in our family meant accepting whatever story made Preston look best. By the time he became engaged to a woman named Simone, he had built a modest career as a luxury real estate consultant, though the word consultant did more work than he did. His social media pages were immaculate. Hotel lobbies, champagne glasses, borrowed sports cars. Photographs taken beside houses he had not sold. Simone had a similar instinct for presentation. She managed branding for a cosmetic clinic and spoke often about curating a life people wanted to enter. Their engagement video included a drone. Their wedding website described the ceremony as a timeless coastal celebration of legacy, elegance, and family. The venue was a private estate overlooking the water, with imported flowers, a string quartet, and a guest list that included business owners, minor influencers, and several people my parents had spent years trying to impress. My mother talked about the wedding as though it were a royal event. "This will change how people see our family," she told me. I remember thinking that people who knew us would see exactly the same family, only better lit. 6 weeks before the wedding, I traveled north for my grandmother's funeral. She had been my father's mother, though they had not been close. She was practical, unpolished, and unimpressed by performance. When I was a child, she taught me how to label boxes, preserve receipts, and never sign anything I had not read. She used to say, "A person's word tells you who they hope to be, their records tell you who they are." My parents disliked that saying. I carried it with me. I left my SUV in my locked garage because my flight was early and a colleague drove me to the airport. My parents had an emergency key to my townhouse from years earlier, when I had undergone surgery and needed help for a week. I had forgotten they still had it. When I returned 4 days later, the garage was empty. At first, I assumed the SUV had been stolen. There was no broken lock, no shattered glass, no damage to the side door. My parents acted shocked when I called. My mother gasped in all the correct places. My father said, "You need to contact the police immediately." Preston sent a message filled with angry emojis and wrote, "Who steals from family?" That sentence became more interesting later. The police report led me to the impound lot, where I learned the SUV had been sold to a specialty dealership nearly 3 weeks earlier. The dealership had then resold it to a buyer in another county. The buyer had been stopped because the plate transfer had not processed correctly, which triggered the temporary impound. The sealed envelope in my hand contained a copy of the bill of sale. The dealership manager had given it to me after I showed identification and explained that I was the registered owner. My father had presented a notarized power of attorney authorizing him to sell the vehicle on my behalf. The document bore my name, my address, my driver's license number, and a signature copied from the closing documents on my townhouse. The notary stamp belonged to a woman named Celeste Warren. I knew that name. She was my mother's closest friend. Celeste had spent nearly 20 years telling people she was practically family. Now, legally speaking, she had become far too involved. The dealership had paid $58,000 for the SUV. The money had been wired to an account belonging to Caldwell Family Events, LLC. That company had been formed 8 months earlier. Its registered manager was my mother. Its mailing address was my parents' house. I did not call them from the impound lot. I did not call Preston. I did not post anything online. I drove home in a rental car, placed the bill of sale on my dining table, and made tea. Then I opened a new binder. I labeled the spine vehicle transfer Caldwell Matter. People imagine betrayal as a loud event. Sometimes it is. But the worst betrayals often arrive quietly, printed in 12-point type, witnessed by someone who smiled at you during Christmas dinner. I spent the next 2 days gathering facts. I requested a certified vehicle title history from the state. I obtained the dealership's purchase packet. I ordered the formation documents for Caldwell Family Events, LLC. I reviewed the forged power of attorney. The signature was convincing to anyone who did not examine signatures professionally. I did. The capital N leaned 3 degrees too far right. The second loop in my surname was closed. I always left it open. The pressure pattern was uniform, suggesting tracing rather than natural movement. More important, the notarial acknowledgement claimed I had appeared before Celeste on a Thursday afternoon. At that exact time, I had been leading a recorded compliance meeting at work. There were 14 attendees. There was video. There was a digital login history. There was no ambiguity. Then I examined the identification copy attached to the dealership file. It was an old photocopy of my driver's license. The same photocopy I had given my parents years earlier when they added me as an emergency contact for my father's surgery. My family had not simply taken my car. They had searched their files, retrieved my identification, copied my signature from a property record, created a false power of attorney, and used a friendly notary to make the theft look legitimate. That level of planning was difficult to dismiss as desperation. It was intention. On the third day, I called the wedding venue. I did not accuse anyone. I introduced myself as Preston's sister and asked whether the remaining balance had been paid. The coordinator hesitated. "I'm sorry, but I can't disclose financial information." "I understand," I said. "I'm trying to verify whether a payment connected to a disputed vehicle sale was applied to the event. You may want to advise your legal department." Her tone changed. An hour later, the venue's attorney called me. After I sent him a limited set of documents, he confirmed that a payment of $49,000 had been received from Caldwell Family Events, LLC 2 days after my SUV was sold. The memo line read, "Preston and Simone, final venue balance." The remaining $9,000 had gone to a floral designer and a custom lighting company. My vehicle had become centerpieces and uplighting. The discovery did not make me angry right away. That surprised me. What I felt first was a kind of grief. Not for the SUV. Vehicles can be replaced. I grieved the amount of time they must have spent discussing me as an obstacle. Someone had suggested using my emergency key. Someone had driven my SUV out of the garage. Someone had located the paperwork. Someone had said, "Nora won't make a scene," and everyone else had agreed. They were correct about one thing: I was not going to make a scene. I was going to make a record. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. Has your family ever treated your competence as permission to take from you? Have they assumed that because you were responsible, you would absorb the damage quietly? Tell me in the comments. And subscribe if you believe calm people are not weak people. Sometimes they are simply waiting until every fact is in the right place. I met my parents privately the following Sunday. I chose their house because I wanted them comfortable. People often reveal more when they believe they control the room. My mother had arranged a tray of pastries on the kitchen island. My father stood by the window with his arms crossed. Preston arrived 10 minutes late wearing sunglasses, though we were indoors. No one asked whether I had recovered my SUV. That told me they already knew I had discovered the sale. I placed the binder on the counter. My mother looked at it as though it were something distasteful. "You always have to make everything so official," she said. "This is official." Preston took off his sunglasses. My father cleared his throat. "We were going to explain." "Please do." My voice remained even. My mother began. She said Preston's wedding costs had risen unexpectedly. Simone's family had promised to contribute but withdrew after a business setback. The venue threatened to release the date. Deposits would have been lost. Guests had booked flights. The magazine feature had already been arranged. "You have no idea how humiliating cancellation would have been," she said. I looked at her. "You forged a power of attorney." Her lips tightened. "Celeste assured us it was temporary." "A false notarization is not temporary." My father stepped forward. "We plan to replace the vehicle after the wedding." "With what money?" Silence. That was the first honest answer of the afternoon. Preston leaned against the counter. "You barely drove it." I turned toward him. "I drove it every day. You work from home twice a week. That doesn't change ownership." He exhaled sharply. "This is exactly what Mom means. You reduce everything to technicalities. A forged signature is not a technicality. It's a car, Nora. It was my car. You have savings, and you had a wedding budget." His expression changed then. The charm slipped. "You've always resented me." There it was, the family's preferred shortcut. Whenever the facts became inconvenient, they translated them into jealousy. My mother touched his arm. "Don't let her provoke you." I opened the binder. Inside were certified copies arranged by date, vehicle title, bill of sale, power of attorney, corporate registration, wire confirmation, work attendance record, video meeting log, notary commission record. I slid one page across the counter. "This proves I was not present when Celeste claimed I signed." My father did not touch it. My mother said, "What do you want?" My SUV returned, or its full replacement value paid within 10 business days. "You will also provide a written admission that the power of attorney was created without my knowledge." Preston laughed once. "You're threatening your own family over transportation." "No, I'm giving my family an opportunity to correct a crime privately." The room became still. My mother's face hardened. "You would destroy your brother's wedding?" "I did not use stolen property to finance it. You know what this would do to him publicly." I looked at Preston. He did not look afraid of losing his marriage. He looked afraid of losing the photographs. My father finally spoke. "You need to decide whether you want to be part of this family." The sentence landed more softly than he intended, perhaps because some part of me had been expecting it since childhood. He continued, "If you involve the police, the venue, or anyone outside this room, you are done. No wedding. No holidays, no contact. Your mother and I will consider you responsible for whatever follows." My mother nodded. "We will tell people the truth." "Which truth?" "That you are bitter, that you offered to help and changed your mind. That you've been unstable since Grandma died." I watched her carefully. She had prepared the story already. The frame was waiting. All they needed was for me to step inside it. I closed the binder. 10 business days. Preston shook his head. You won't do anything? I lifted the binder. No, I said. I won't do anything today. They mistook delay for surrender. That had always been their favorite mistake. The next morning, my mother posted a photograph of the 4 of us from the previous Christmas. Her caption said, "Family is choosing grace over grudges." So thankful we raised children who understand sacrifice. I saved a screenshot. 2 days later, Preston posted a video from the wedding venue. He and Simone stood beneath a floral arch while planners moved around them. Some people dream, he said into the camera. Others build legacy. I saved that too. On the 5th business day, Celeste called me. She did not ask whether I was all right. She said, "Your mother is worried you're going to overreact. I'm reviewing a forged notarization." It wasn't forged. Did I appear before you? A pause. You gave your parents permission. No, they believed they had implied permission. Notarizations do not recognize implied presence. Her voice dropped. You don't understand the pressure everyone was under. I understand your commission requires you to identify the signer in person. Your mother showed me a copy of your license. That is not the same as my appearing before you. You're being very rigid. I'm being accurate. She became angry. Then, she accused me of ruining lives over paperwork. That phrase stayed with me. Over paperwork. As though paperwork were not the only reason strangers trusted her stamp. As though a deed, a will, a loan, or a power of attorney were merely decorative. I ended the call and wrote a summary of it immediately, including the time, duration, and exact statements I could remember. On the 10th business day, no payment arrived. Instead, I received a formal letter from an attorney hired by my parents. The letter accused me of previously authorizing the sale verbally. It demanded that I stop contacting wedding vendors. It warned that further interference could expose me to claims for defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. They had moved from theft to intimidation. The letter also contained one useful mistake. It acknowledged that my parents had directed the sale proceeds to wedding expenses. They were no longer denying the transaction, only my lack of consent. I added the letter to the binder. Then I contacted the state motor vehicle fraud unit. I filed a police report for forgery and unlawful conversion. I reported Celeste to the Secretary of State's Notary Division. I sent the venue attorney the certified title history and police report number, and then I waited. Not passively, patiently. There is a difference. 3 weeks later, the wedding weekend arrived. By then, the investigation had begun, but no arrests had been made. The dealership had placed a hold on releasing the SUV to the buyer while ownership was disputed. The venue had not canceled the event. My parents interpreted that as victory. They posted constantly, welcome bags, rehearsal dinner, champagne wall, monogrammed napkins. My mother wore a pale silver gown she described as understated. Preston posted a photograph beside a rented vintage car with the caption, "Nothing can stop what's meant for you." On the afternoon of the wedding, I dressed in a simple navy suit. I did not wear the dress my mother had selected for me. I carried no gift, only a slim black document case. The event was held at Halcyon Point, a private coastal estate known for celebrity weddings and charity galas. White tents stretched across the lawn. Florists climbed ladders beneath hanging arrangements that looked like clouds. The parking area was filled with luxury vehicles. Mine had helped pay for the privilege of looking at them. At the entrance, a coordinator checked my name against the guest list. Her expression changed slightly. "Miss Caldwell, the family asked that you be escorted directly to your seat." "I'm not here to be seated." A security guard stepped closer. Before he could speak, the venue's general manager approached. His name was Adrian Vale. I recognized him from the emails copied by the venue attorney. "Miss Caldwell," he said quietly, "our counsel said you might arrive." I handed him the document case. Inside were certified copies of the police report, title history, bank transfer, forged power of attorney, and a notice issued that morning by the motor vehicle fraud unit. The notice stated that funds derived from the disputed sale could be considered proceeds of a fraudulent transaction. Adrian read the first page, then the second. His jaw tightened. What are you asking us to do? Nothing beyond what your legal obligations require. He studied me. You understand the ceremony begins in 22 minutes. Yes. Behind him, guests moved across the lawn holding drinks. A photographer arranged my parents beneath an archway. My mother saw me. Even from a distance, I recognized the exact moment fear entered her face. She excused herself and crossed the lawn quickly, my father and Preston following. Simone remained near the bridal suite doors, watching. My mother reached us first. What are you doing here? Adrian closed the document case. Mrs. Caldwell, we need to speak privately, her voice sharpened. This is my son's wedding. I understand. Preston looked at me. You promised not to make a scene. I promised nothing. My father turned to Adrian. This is a family dispute. She has emotional issues. Adrian's expression became neutral. I have documentation from law enforcement indicating that a substantial venue payment may be connected to a fraudulent sale. Several nearby guests stopped talking, not because Adrian spoke loudly, because powerful statements do not require volume. My mother lowered her voice. We can resolve this after the ceremony. The payment agreement requires all funds to be lawfully obtained, Adrian said. Our legal counsel has instructed us not to proceed until the source of funds is clarified. Preston stared at him. You can't stop a wedding 20 minutes before it starts. Adrian glanced toward the tents. We are suspending the event. The words moved outward almost physically. A coordinator whispered to another coordinator. The quartet stopped mid-rehearsal. A server carrying champagne turned toward the lawn. Guests began checking their phones, sensing information before understanding it. My mother stepped close to me. Her smile remained in place for the people watching. You are enjoying this. No, you have wanted to humiliate him his entire life. No, then tell them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. My father's voice was low. We will never forgive you. I looked at him. You sold something that belonged to me, forged my signature, and threatened to disown me if I documented it. His face flushed. This did not need to become public. I tried to keep it private. Preston looked around at the gathering crowd. His carefully planned expression had vanished. Do you understand what you've done to my career? I answered honestly. I understand what you did to mine. He frowned. You work in titles. Yes. If anyone believed I willingly ignored identity fraud within my own family, I could lose my certification, my position, and the trust that took me 15 years to build. He had never considered that. To him, my career was a desk and a paycheck. His career was an identity. My mother had begun crying without disturbing her makeup. This was supposed to be the happiest day of his life. I looked toward Simone. She was walking toward us now, still in her wedding dress. She stopped beside Preston. Is it true? She asked. He reached for her hand. It's complicated. That means yes. My parents handled the financing. My mother stared at him. It was the first time I saw the golden child understand that the frame could not protect everyone at once. Someone would have to be placed outside it. Preston chose quickly. I didn't know where the money came from. That was not true. I had text messages from the dealership packet showing he had sent my father the vehicle's mileage and options, but I did not reveal them yet. I did not need to. Simone stepped away from him. She looked at my parents. You told me the money came from an investment account. My father said, it was temporary. She turned toward Preston. You knew? He glanced at the guests, the cameras, the unfinished altar. His silence answered her. Simone removed her engagement ring. She did not throw it. She placed it carefully in his palm. Then she walked back toward the bridal suite. No screaming, no dramatic collapse, just a woman changing direction after receiving new information. The wedding did not happen, but the consequences did not end on that lawn. Second question for you. When someone tells you to protect the family, do they mean everyone in the family, or only the person who caused the damage? Share your thoughts in the comments. And subscribe if you appreciate stories where truth does not arrive loudly, but it arrives prepared. The investigation lasted 7 months. My father eventually admitted he had driven the SUV to the dealership. My mother admitted she had created Caldwell Family Events, LLC, to hide the flow of money from vendors and relatives. Celeste surrendered her notary commission after investigators found she had falsely notarized not only my power of attorney, but 2 other documents for friends. Preston continued claiming he did not understand the sale was unauthorized until investigators recovered messages from his phone. One message to my father read, "Make sure Nora can't trace this before the wedding. Once the photos are out, nobody can undo it." He had been wrong. Photographs can be deleted. Records remain. My parents accepted plea agreements involving restitution, probation, fines, and community service. Neither went to prison, which disappointed some people who heard the story. It did not disappoint me. Real consequences are rarely as theatrical as people expect. They are slower. My father lost his position on the board of a local business association. My mother resigned from 2 charity committees after members learned that money connected to a fraudulent sale had funded an event she had promoted as a celebration of family values. Their attorney negotiated the sale of a lake property they owned to pay restitution, legal fees, and penalties. They had stolen my SUV to protect their social status. In the end, they sold a house to pay for the damage. Preston's real estate firm terminated his contract after the text messages became part of the court record. He attempted to relaunch himself online as a victim of family conflict, but every version of the story collided with the documents. Simone did not marry him. 6 months later, she sent me a brief email. She said she was sorry for benefiting from money taken from me, even unknowingly. She had reimbursed me for the portion of the wedding expenses her family had recovered from canceled vendors. It was not required. I respected her for doing it. The dealership unwound the sale, and the buyer received a full refund. My SUV was returned. I sold it 2 weeks later. Not because I could not bear to drive it, because I no longer wanted to carry the story everywhere I went. I replaced it with a modest dark blue crossover that handled well in the rain and did not attract attention. My parents have not spoken to me since the final restitution payment. For a while, their silence hurt. Then I understood that the silence was simply the last frame they could control. In their version, I had chosen paperwork over family. In reality, they had chosen an event over my trust. They had chosen photographs over permission. They had chosen my brother's public image over my private safety. Documents did not destroy our family. They revealed its boundaries. A year after the wedding that never happened, I moved into a small house near a river. Nothing about it would impress my mother. The kitchen is narrow. The porch floor tilts slightly. The garden grows in uneven patches because I am still learning what belongs in sunlight and what prefers shade. On quiet evenings, I sit outside with tea and listen to water moving beneath the bridge. My work binder is stored in a locked cabinet. I rarely open it. I do not need to. The truth does not require constant performance once it has been properly recorded. Sometimes people ask whether I regret going to the venue. I regret that it became necessary, but necessity and cruelty are not the same thing. I gave my family 10 business days to repair what they had done. They used those days to threaten me, rewrite the story, and prepare to display the results of their theft beneath imported flowers. I did not ruin the wedding. I refused to let my property become part of its decoration. There is a lesson I wish I had learned earlier. Being the calm one in a difficult family does not mean you must become the convenient one. Being responsible does not make your resources communal. Being private does not mean other people may invent your consent. And forgiveness does not require you to destroy the evidence. Some families will spend years teaching you that love means staying inside the frame they built for you. The difficult daughter, the jealous sister, the selfish child, the one who keeps score, but frames are chosen. Records are discovered, and sometimes the most peaceful life begins when you stop arguing about how they portray you and quietly step outside the picture. I used to believe my family's greatest power was their ability to tell a convincing story. Now, I know better. A story can travel quickly. But the truth has something stronger. A signature, a date, a witness, a record, and time.